everybody. It's Ediomi, and you are tuned in to Founder Fridays. We're here with my wonderful husband, Yannick. We're going to be talking a little bit about what it's like to actually live with somebody or care for somebody who has sickle cell disease. So, wait, or that one doesn't matter. We have two camera angles happening. um, so, I guess the first thing to start is, where and when, how do we meet, I guess, and how do we start talking about sickle cell?
Well, we met through a mutual friend, as just normal courting, I guess. I tried to approach you and we got to know each other on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
We had a long distance thing for a while. The whole topic of sickle cell didn't really come up until after a few weeks of us just talking, and then that's when I, remember that, I have the trait. Like somebody said I had the trait like a long time ago. Like it wasn't something that I really.
That's not how I remember it.
That's how I remember it.
No, I remember us talking about sickle cell. Like everything you said up to that point was right. I remember you saying you did not have the trait. I had to ask your mother. I had to call your mom and ask. And she was just like, no, that boy has the trait.
I thought
then you realize like, oh crap, okay, I do have the trait.
I remember somebody saying something about the trait like throughout my life.
Yeah.
Like maybe once or twice, but it was never something that, affected me or I cared about really, or I thought more, because I didn't feel any effects from it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that could have happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Just to confirm that I had the trait. But from there it was just like, oh, okay. Well, that means this, and this, and that. But it was so early at that time, I wasn't even thinking about having a kid or anything.
And that's the lucky, I guess it is lucky, or is it destiny, or whatever it may be, but we met and you already had a child. Like, he was 7 years old, Calvin, he's amazing. 7 years old when we met, and I was definitely cool with that,
I mean, you wasn't cool
now. Before it was a little rough, but I mean, you're coming into a relationship with somebody who already has a child. Like, that already is a layer. Not talking about sickle cell, not bringing anything else into, like, family, none of that into the picture.
Yeah.
You have a child, and like for somebody who lived my best life single, to date somebody with a child was a learning curve, at times challenging, but totally worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a blessing for sure. Not that we couldn't have kids, but the complications from that idea, just from me having a trait and me having a disease, was definitely something that, we had to really think about. Yeah. It's not just an easy, like, boom, boom, boom. But having a kid kind of made that a little bit easier to get over it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly why I brought it up, because, like, I never was the type to, I just want to have kids. Like, I got baby fever every time I see a baby. That wasn't me. Like, it wasn't something that, I think as a growing up, it's like, you want to have a family, and you think about those type of things, but when I was in my 20s, 30s, early 30s, I would say, kids was never on the top of my priority list.
Definitely was on mine. But I always wanted to just have one son, just like me, just like one boy, and I got that. But after that, I was good. I thought I, got it out the way early. I was a teen parent. It was rough, but at this point, now I'm like the cool dad at the school. It's a cool. I like how it happened. At the time, it looked like, it was rough, but I'm glad how it worked out.
Yeah. So we know Calvin does not have the trait. Calvin is your son.
I actually don't know.
Okay. See, another important thing to do is let's get him tested, and also talk to his mom. Just about pure education.
Yeah. I wonder what the percentage is of specifically of Black people having the trait. Mm-hmm. At least the trait.
I believe the stat is 1 in 13.
Really? So it's kind of rare.
Rare enough, but still prevalent.
1 in 13. That's like. I guess that's.
Imagine a classroom of people. You know what I mean? If a class is full of 26 people, at least 2 people have it. And those 2 people can then
have the trait.
Right.
But the full-blown disease is something much more, rare.
Yeah.
What are the stats on that?
Yeah. I gotta look them up. Yeah, we might have to come back to that, but I think the first thing is like, let's get everybody like educated and tested.
Right.
When it comes to you and us courting and like, you know, dating and all that kind of stuff, did you see sickle cell as a challenge or a barrier at all?
Not in the beginning. I mean, it was a long distance situation, so it was like not something I thought about really. But once we got to be in person, it's not like you were like in and out of the hospital or having like pains so obvious that I could, you know, that I could see that were affecting me. I didn't really see how bad it can get until I met, you know, your family, specifically your sister, and I saw like what this could look like. You know what I mean? Potentially, and that was a little bit scary just to see someone in pain that you care about.
Yeah, and you can't really do anything.
Yeah, and there's
to,
really
to
nothing
assist
you
or
can do.
to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of those really super, super blessed people that I don't get sick that often. My last hospitalization was in 2008.
The worst experience of my life, but thank God it was the last time up until this date. Being hospitalized. I actually was in Las Vegas and away from family, visiting, you know, a friend, and got really sick out there. Landed in hospital for like 5 days by myself. Well, my friend came, but you know, that also put a strain on our relationship. To be honest with you, you know,
Yeah.
and actually haven't really. It's never really been the same. Just because it is very traumatic.
But yeah, haven't been sick since that time. Hospital, like having sick enough to go to the hospital. I think the most challenging part is, you know, just dealing with the daily symptoms like being tired or making sure you're drinking enough water, making sure you're staying balanced, and you know, reducing stress and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. Like day-to-day stuff, like I'll notice, like I definitely have to pay attention to your energy levels for sure. Like I understand that we're just in different places, and if I'm like going, I gotta be mindful of, you know, how's Ediomi keeping up. Usually you know, right there with me. And the thing about it, like you won't even say a lot of times.
Cause it's like in my DNA to keep going, you know?
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I gotta be like
You
thinking.
gotta be mindful of that.
Yeah, like
for
okay,
sure.
she might not say it, but like watch how she moves and watch her gestures, you know, her tone and stuff. So I mean, that's just part of being a husband, or I guess in any type of relationship, just being conscious of your partner's, you know, condition, their needs.
Yep.
That's really what it's about. So I mean, as far as sickle cell, it really just falls into the, you know, the seams of the relationship. You know, just being involved with someone, caring about them. It's just second nature.
Yeah.
I think the biggest obstacle or potential obstacle that could have, you know, really been something is the child type of thing.
If we had a child,
we were considering having a child. And I think that's something I thought about. I think we both discussed.
We've had a lot of conversations about kids, and that's probably one of the things. Like, well, that's probably impacted our relationship the most.
Right.
Is like, do we have kids? Do we not have kids? And if we have kids, what do the what does that look like? You know, is it, you know, once you once you have a pre-existing condition like sickle cell disease, like you're automatically high risk of pregnancy.
Right.
You know, and now I'm at the age, I'm over 30, I'm 35. So, you know, that another is a layer of like caution that I think is added. So yeah.
I think like the bigger question is like, if you know that the chance is high that your child will have sickle cell disease, do you still make that conscious decision to have a child?
Yeah.
Because that's what it seemed like to me, even before, you know, like earlier in our relationship, when you told me about your parents, I'm like, there's like, what, 6 of y'all? And
4 of us.
4, whatever, it's a lot
4
of y'all.
kids only.
After the first child has sickle cell, and you see like how painful that is,
Yeah.
to continue having children with that risk in mind, is something that I don't know if I would be willing to do. You know, it's like you're watching your child suffering, and then to do it again and again and again, it's just like, man, like.
So the unique thing about my parents, and this is, I think, probably happens a lot, especially in folks who come from West Africa is there's still a little bit of miseducation out there. Like I had this conversation with my mom, and she thought 1 in 25 chance, right? So that means if I have one child, boom, no other kids will have it, which is not true. It's 1 in 25 every time you are pregnant, right? It's not like, oh, I hit the lottery one time and that's it, I'll never win again. In a sense, it's every time you have a pregnancy that there's 25% chance, because both my parents have the trait that the child will have the disease.
Wow.
So my mom thought, okay, Edie, my older sister, has sickle cell, and that nobody else would have it.
Right.
My brother, boom. Okay, she's like, yeah, let's go. Nope, my brother doesn't have anything.
Right.
Then
not even the trait.
Not even the trait.
Wow.
And then I, third child, boom, SS, and she's shocked. And that's also, and then my younger sister came, she has the trait. But the other point that just came to my mind was
there's still a very African tradition thing, that is blanketed across that. Like it's tradition to have kids, tradition to get married, to raise a family, you know what I mean? That played a lot into my mom. My mom, said that she would have had 5 kids initially. So
I mean, even beyond just, I use your family as an example, but just for anybody, who's knowing the risk, that decision to still have children, like even beyond cultural traditions or anything like that, like that's a big step. Yeah. And I think that's something that we thought about a lot, knowing that the risk is high and me having the trait, you having a disease, that if we have a child, it's more than likely, going to have to go through some real suffering.
Personally, I just don't think that I would want my child to go through that.
Yeah.
If I knew that the risk was high.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing I don't think a lot of people know is how devastating it can be. Like no parent is going to, consciously make that decision for their kid.
Right.
If they knew how bad it was,
right.
And if they knew the risk was so high, that's why I think like the testing and knowing like your status and understanding the disease and just more knowledge about it can really shape people's, decisions when having children, when dating even.
Yeah, and deciding who they want to have kids with.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said before, this is something I don't think even needs to exist.
Yeah.
if you have that type of, if you're thinking about it in that way, if it only continues, it's not something you can catch or something that can spread like this pandemic.
Genetic. It's genetic. In your DNA. So at the end of the day, like there's
it's by choice.
Portion of it's a choice, and it has to be an educated choice.
Right.
Like you can't just say choice. It has to be educated. You have to understand fully what it really means to have somebody who living with sickle cell disease, and a lot of people do not because they have never seen it.
Right.
It's like it doesn't until it affects you personally. You see your cousin, your sister, your family.
Right.
In excruciating pain and not being able to help them at all, giving them the strongest, type of painkiller, and them still being in agonizing pain. You know what I mean? You know what that does to you? Yeah. So to all folks living out there, I think who want to think about kids and that you carry the trait, or you live with the disease, like. Understand completely what that means. Talk to your healthcare providers. Talk to whoever you need. Call us, and we'll give you plenty of examples and reasons as to better educate you. So.
And it's not to say that you can't do it. It's just like knowing, just understand what you're doing. You know what I mean? But a lot of times,
because your kid can come online. Your kid can not have a crisis at all.
Could.
But that's definitely up to the universe, to God, wherever you want to go.
But what it really goes into, like people just be having kids. A lot of times they don't be playing anytime. Yeah, they don't be playing anyway. Like I know people have done that. And we're all mature now. We talk about planning having a kid, but that's not how it usually goes.
You got here on Tinder swiping,
Not even Tinder. I mean, just
saying.
In real relationships, people just have kids accidentally all the time. Like most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time kids are accidents.
Yeah. Well, nothing's an accident, but they're not planned pregnancies.
Yeah. Yes.
So, knowing the status before you even get involved with someone like that is crucial, I think.
Mm-hmm. what would you have any advice for other couples who may be going through perhaps what you went through, like dating somebody who has a pre-existing condition like sickle cell, or
Like I said before, it's really just the same standard of being in any relationship. You know, caring for each other. Period. So that means if you need help, like just you know what I'm saying, if you need help physically, if you were in any other relationship with two completely healthy people, they would help each other. Same thing. It's the same.
So
thing.
I think it's easy. It's easy. I think easier for you to say that only because I don't get sick that often.
Okay.
Now if I
That's
was,
true.
you
But
know,
if you did, I would treat you the same as if
well, that's why I love you.
somebody
Right.
who didn't.
But that's what people need to know. Like if you know you meet somebody and they're fine, you know, for 5 years of relationship, and then all of a sudden they get sick, are you going to be there?
I don't think anybody that like reasonable adults
I
is gonna
know.
be like, oh, well, she kept getting sick, so I had to leave, or he
Yeah.
kept getting, you know what I mean? Like, you have to. This is a love question. You know what I mean? Like people.
Relationships come down to the love question.
Yeah, like you're gonna
no
do
matter
what you have to do for this person, no matter what.
Yep.
Sick. Well, they say sick and thin. I don't. What are they sick?
Through thick and thin.
Yeah, you know about that.
Yeah.
However cliche it is, I mean, a lot of that is just basic, and I think anything that comes with that territory, got to be willing to tackle.
Do you feel as though sickle cell has strengthened our relationship at all? Weakened it at all?
Honestly, I don't see it as a burden or as a step. It's really the same. It's the same standard for me. I really, I think if anything, it's given me more knowledge about something that I had no idea existed, that I felt like I should have known, especially since I have the trait.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think there's been a lot of light shed on information that I think more people should know. As far as what a large population of black people are going through. I think that's just part of understanding our overall condition, and I think that spreading that information is a important duty.
Yeah. I guess what are the top 3 things you wish you would have known about sickle cell in general?
Top 3 things
Yep.
I wish I would have known.
Even about your own status, like, cause it seemed as if you didn't. I mean, when I talked to your mom, she was like, "Yes, he has a trait," but we had a conversation. He was like, "No, I don't got no trait," I was like, "Oh, cause we were talking about kids a lot." So that's why I'm like, "What did you wish you knew?"
I wish I would have known what that even means. Like, okay, I have the trait, so what? What are the effects of having the trait? What does that mean long term? Like, what are the symptoms of that? Because I really never noticed.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm living with it this whole time, and nobody's talking about, oh, that's that trait, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not able to identify, what's being caused by that. You know what I mean? So that's something I wish I would have known more of. Even still.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm just tired or it's because it's a trait, or is it even affecting me in a way that's physically noticeable?
Most people don't have, if they have the trait, most people don't have symptoms. It can be asymptomatic. But I think most cases when people who have the trait, have symptoms, is like extreme situations. Like, I read stories about, going to high or low altitudes can affect, or playing extreme sports, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But, that's still very few and far between when it compared to sickle cell disease,
I think the main thing is like knowing that potentially I could have a child with
Yes.
that. That's for me the number one thing.
Yeah.
Knowing that ahead of time. Luckily I did. But that's just me personally. I'm glad I got that info.
Okay.
Other than that, no, I think being around you, I've caught a lot of, just from osmosis, like the big picture of what this really means, and the necessity for it to be known by more people.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to add? I think I have one more question for you.
Shoot.
When we first started talking about sickle cell and you learned that I had it, did that? How did that impact you? Did you feel like, I don't know about this one, or like, yo, she the one, or like, what? How did you feel?
Honestly, I didn't know enough about sickle cell
Okay.
to make a judgment. I was like, oh, okay. She got asthma. Oh, cool. Like that's the level I looked at it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, not as something so, you know what I mean, potentially devastating.
Mm-hmm.
It was really on the level of like allergies
Okay.
or asthma
Wow.
or like eczema or something like
Wow.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I'm ashamed to say it, but that's just how I felt about it. But luckily, you know, that didn't deter me, and here we are. You know what I mean? I think if I would have known more at the time, I definitely would have, you know, thought a little bit harder. So maybe it was a good thing I didn't.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I think that's it.
You know, gotta think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Did you think that? Did you think you wanted to have kids though? Like before you met me?
Yeah. Before. Oh, after my son?
Yes.
No, I was done.
So count was it.
Yeah,
All right.
I was at the point where I would be like, okay, if the person I was with was willing or, you know, wanting to have kids, I would do it. But I met my quota for a lifetime.
Cool.
In my book. But, yeah. Adoption is great.
Adoption is great. Look into adoption. I think that it needs to be done more, especially by people who look like us.
And the kids.
And the kids who look like us. Because a lot of kids probably have sickle cell and need to be adopted and need to be cared for and need to have a family that understands and supports them. So, yeah. Anything else to add?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Cool. So that is my episode of Founder Fridays. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and of course Twitter for updates on what we have going on for the rest of the month. All right. Talk to you soon.